Over the last few days, we as Indians have been taking great pride in our sporting achievements. We had a great showing at the Commonwealth Games, and it finally feels like we're moving on from the cricket obsession. But then today came the shocker. FIFA, for the first time in its 85-year history, has suspended the All India Football Federation. That's the apex body of Indian football. The reason? Undue influence from third parties. Now, who exactly are these third parties, and what is this undue influence that FIFA is talking about? But first, let's tell you what has happened today. So FIFA suspension strips India of the right to host the Under-17 Women's World Cup due in October. The Indian government responded by moving the Supreme Court for an urgent hearing, while the Committee of Administrators currently tasked with taking care of Indian football put out a statement saying they are stunned and surprised. So how did this story unfold? In May this year, Delhi FC, that's the Delhi Football Club, moved the Supreme Court saying that NCP leader and former Union Minister Praful Patel continues to be president of the AIFF despite his term ending in December 2020. Quick background here. Praful Patel has been the president of the All India Football Federation for 3 terms of 4 years each. That's 12 years in all. Now, the rules say that you can be president only for 3 terms, and that third term ended in December 2020, yet he remained as president. So that's why the Delhi FC moved the Supreme Court against this. On 18th of May, the Supreme Court acted, removed Mr. Patel from that post and put in place a committee of administrators. These include retired Justice Anil Dave as the chairman, Bhaskar Ganguly, the former Indian football captain, and Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, the former Chief Election Commission. So this was the 3-member committee that the Supreme Court installed to run Indian football while everything got sorted. And this happened in May. Now, the job of this 3-member committee was to form the constitution of the AIFF and hold elections for a new president and executive committee. This attempt has been held up by a back and forth between state associations and this committee. Deadlines and timelines have been extended. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court stepped in once again to ensure elections are held. There was even a tussle on who the electors will be, what percentage of them will be eminent sporting personalities. FIFA had a view, the AIFF had a view, the Sports Ministry had a view. At the end of it all, it seems like FIFA, losing patience, has gone ahead with its suspension order, which it warned about. According to FIFA, Article 16 of its statutes say it is prohibited to take disputes to ordinary courts of law. And perhaps that is one of the reasons. Now, experts believe that FIFA doesn't respond very well to political interference either. There's a quote of a former football coach saying that the kind of management of Indian football may run afoul of FIFA's very low tolerance threshold of political interference. So needless to say, the sporting fraternity is shocked. Let's listen in to some of the comments that came in today.
Very unfortunate that FIFA has banned Indian football, and at the same time I feel it's a very harsh decision from FIFA to ban Indian football. But at the same time I think it's a great opportunity to get our system right. And it's very important that all the stakeholders, be it federation, state association, sports ministry, to come together, get the system right, and everybody work for betterment of Indian football.
बहुत ही दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। ये बहुत बड़ी बात है इंडिया के लिए। भारतवर्ष एक इतना बड़ा देश है और बहुत बड़ा हब है। हब मींस अगर आप फुटबॉल का अगर देखते हैं पूरे वर्ल्ड में, तो भारत एक ऐसा देश है जो तरक्की कर रहा है अब आस्ते आस्ते, और फीफा ने बहुत गलत कदम उठाया है। ये होना नहीं चाहिए। फीफा नो डाउट कभी पैसे देती है फेडरेशन को चलाने के लिए, लेकिन उससे कोई फायदा नहीं। जब तक इंडियन गवर्नमेंट इन्वॉल्व नहीं होगा, स्पोर्ट नहीं बढ़ेगा। हमारे देश में बहुत अच्छे प्लेयर्स हैं, लेकिन फुटबॉल में बढ़ावा नहीं मिल रहा।
It is very humiliating for the entire footballing fraternity of India, and this is not the way we should go ahead. We should understand that FIFA worldwide doesn't accept any third-party intervention in the administration of football, and I think the court and CEO has to understand that the court has to take necessary action to immediately quickly remove any intervention from COA or from the court and let AIFF function independently.
बहुत कोशिश किया, गलतियां होती है सबसे, जो भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन चलाता है उससे गलती होती है और मेरे से भी हुई होगी, मैं मानता हूं गलतियां होती है, लेकिन ऑलवेज द इंटेंशन की यही था कि द बेस्ट फॉर इंडियन फुटबॉल। और जहां तक हो सका मैं फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन को काफ़ी अच्छी तरह रखा, क्योंकि जब मैं छोड़ा था AIFF के रिजर्व्स थे अबाउट 20 करोड़ से ऊपर, जो कि आई डोंट थिंक BCCI को छोड़ दें तो और कोई फेडरेशन के पास है।
At stake. Now, because of this suspension by FIFA, the Under-17 World Cup for women, which was supposed to be held in India in October, won't take place anymore. That team will be left out after all of their hard work being put in. In fact, no Indian team can play till this suspension is on. And most of all, it's an embarrassment, right? It shows that we cannot sort out how we deal with our football association. So what really went wrong? To understand this in more detail and the implications for Indian sport, I'm speaking today with Shabbir Ali, former captain and technical director of Indian football team and a Dhyan Chand awardee. Premankur Barua, former manager of the Indian football team and former CEO of East Bengal, is also with us on the show. I'm speaking with Gaurav Gupta, senior assistant editor, Sports Times of India, and Srinivasan Saimani, sports lawyer from Off the Bench. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for speaking with us today on Beyond the Headline. Let me begin, Mr. Shabbir Ali, just with your take of what has happened. What is this third-party interference that FIFA is talking about? Can you just give us some context to this?
See, FIFA doesn't allow the third party, like how the CEO is there or the government. But sometimes you have to take the help of the government. Now, you see, we are conducting the World Cup. Without the help of the government, we can't do the World Cup. We can't conduct the World Cup. So in that way, the FIFA is wrong, because without the help of the government, how can we conduct such a important, such a big tournament? So sometimes you have to take help. Now, government and this CEO came into picture because the election was not held. And another thing surprising, why FIFA has not taken the action before. Now all of a sudden, when only 3 months are there, they have taken the action. They could have easily taken the action before only. Why they didn't conduct the election and other things. Government came into picture, or the Supreme came into picture because the election was not held.
You know, we have a problem with your frame, Mr. Shabbir Ali. We're going to try and fix it so we can get a clearer point of view from you. But from what you said so far, why has FIFA responded at this point? And can any federation really conduct an important tournament without the help of government? Is it a problem of government interference? Mr. Barua, explain this to us, because, you know, some today are saying the problem is that Praful Patel was sitting on top of this body for 3 terms. Why didn't he move out earlier? Some today are saying that the issue essentially is that why did this matter go to the Supreme Court? That's not something that FIFA allows. Is it the involvement of the sports ministry that's the issue? What do you understand as the actual issue?
About involvement of the sports ministry. The issue here was that Praful Patel had already completed 3 terms of his in office. The Sports Code of India clearly mandates that no official can, go beyond a term of 3 years. So he had to vacate his seat, which he didn't vacate in time. Hence, a public litigation was filed in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court upheld that he needs to be dismissed and the new body to be formed. Now, the catch here is FIFA has reacted in a very way which is not legal, in fact, because here the Supreme Court has ordered the COA to take over and conduct fresh elections as per the FIFA statute. So now when the process was in progress, So FIFA comes out and all of a sudden, bans the federation, which is, I think, not in the right earnest. Everything is okay. The rules, regulations is being followed. The Supreme Court has already been, involved in this. The CEO has already formed the new AIFF rules and regulations, which obviously will come once the new body takes over. So FIFA acting in this time in a very haste manner is not, accepted by anybody.
But Mr. Barua, is FIFA acting in haste, or did they not give enough warning? Their team has come and visited over here. They have said what they want to be done. This entire process was started after the Supreme Court's intervention in May, and there's still not been any movement. So is it a FIFA issue, or is it an issue of how we run Indian football?
Indian football, there's an issue, that's no doubt about it. But obviously, it was being placed in right order. The Supreme Court has already delivered its judgment that the election needs to be conducted before August 28, and it's in the process. In fact, I think from tomorrow onwards, the process of filing nomination starts also. So all said and done, FIFA could have waited for at least a week or so that the process would have been done and a new committee would have been placed.
Srinivasan Saimani, I want to understand the context in which FIFA is looking at the Supreme Court's intervention on this matter, because the statute talks about courts not getting involved. Is that part of the issue?
Yeah, so I think in this case, Tamanna, we need to take a step back. Now, FIFA is a body that's incorporated under the Swiss Civil Code, and AIFF is a voluntary member of FIFA. Now, I mean, to put it into a very relevant context, it's like a society of which AIFF is a member, and FIFA is well within its rights to formulate rules and regulations which will govern the membership. And one of the most important obligations of any member of FIFA is that your governance needs to be independent. And independent, it goes on to define in its statutes, is that any election or appointment is conducted in accordance with the statutes. Now, I mean, there's no hiding that the third-party interference that we are talking about here is the appointment of the COA to run the affairs of the All India Football Federation. Now, the appointment of the COA is neither in an election or an appointment as per the AIFF statutes that were in place. We're still in the process of finalizing new statutes and at the same time conducting elections. But at some point of time, you violated your obligations as a member of FIFA. And the statutes of FIFA are pretty straightforward in that case, where the Bureau of FIFA Council, which has suspended AIFF by a decision taken on the 14th, is well within its rights to take cognizance of this happening, third-party interference happening, and passing a suspension order. And I mean, you had a point to state that at some point of time, we need to look at how the process has been moving back home. And we probably need to look at what's happening here as well before putting all blame on FIFA.
I'll come to that in a minute. I'll come to that in a minute on what this exposes about the rot in Indian football. But I want to first understand the story properly, that what does FIFA have a problem with? And which is why, if you can explain to us the sequence of events and what that tells us, Srinivasan, because this started in May when the Delhi FC moved the Supreme Court saying Praful Patel is still hanging around, even though his term has ended in December 2020. Now, that's from where the issue began. So I find it surprising that FIFA had no issue with Praful Patel remaining as president after his term ended, but now has an issue with an intervention of a court.
So I don't think the issue here is that the administration under Mr. Patel, while new elections had not happened as and when the time arose, was still an executive body which was elected as per the statutes of FIFA. So FIFA is looking at it from the angle of, listen, these are my members and they've been elected in accordance with statutes which are in line with our own statutes. And they are in compliance and they're probably on the same page as the 210 other members other than AIFF. So if we look at things this way, I mean, one of the things that FIFA always focuses on is having some sort of stability in the football ecosystem, be it player transfers or governance, etc. Now, if every country's factual situation arises to a different legal point, and as an international watchdog of the sport, if the organization has to spend days and nights in managing each country's factual situation, that's going to make it impossible to run the sport. And which is why they have a standard format for every country to follow. And that's pretty straightforward in Article 19 of the statutes. If you look at it, they explain what independence is and what they're not going to accept. They're not even going to accept an interim body that's been appointed if it's not been appointed or elected as per the statute. So the whole issue basically points down to that.
Okay, so Praful Patel was okay because at least that entire body was elected. I want to put this into context, Gaurav, because the Supreme Court has intervened in the past as well when it comes to Indian sports, and with no less than the BCCI and cricket. We are a nation that looks to the Supreme Court to fix everything, frankly, even in sport. And even that time, many asked that, is it the job of the top court of the country to run Indian cricket? That's what's happening with Indian football. Do we need to understand that context?
See, the problem here is that even in case of cricket, many felt that there was slightly a judicial overreach, with all due respect to the Supreme Court. But still, the system needed cleansing because, there was a man who was, whose close relative was accused of spot fixing, and yet, the action taken was not considered to be strong enough, and then we all know what happened, so on and so forth. So the BCCI definitely needed court intervention at that point in time, because there were, the whole spot fixing saga came to the light in 2013, and then the conflict of interest case against Mr. Narayanaswamy Srinivasan, wherein he was owning an IPL team as well as being the BCCI president, which is why many thought that he did not take a strong action against against his team, IPL team, the Chennai Super Kings. In fact, he got them a so that was the problem there. But the thing is, in this case, it's a slightly different thing, because in cricket, the ICC really will never have the guts to sort of take the kind of that a FIFA has taken today. Can you imagine the ICC ever writing a letter to the BCCI saying that?
No, but that's because India dominates cricket. India doesn't dominate football. India is hoping to dominate football. So FIFA has no problem stepping in and telling us that, hey, this is wrong.
Yes, absolutely. So FIFA, you cannot keep blaming the FIFA. The point here is that if things were so wrong in our system, it should not have taken this long for things to be fixed. And eventually, even if the FIFA has been warning us from May and telling us that, look, you set your house in order. COA cannot be, this is not cricket, whereas Committee of Administrators started in early 2018 and went on, to rule Indian cricket till November 2019, when the BCCI ultimately did conduct elections. So similarly, it can't be a similar case in football, because the FIFA rules are pretty clear. You cannot, no organization, no association in the world can be by an outside interference, which is what they believe it to be, outside interference.
Yeah.
It has to be a democratically elected body. So I believe what the COA, the process has been slow. It should have been much faster. It should have adhered to the FIFA timelines.
So it went into this babudam because, we'll play that timeline for you again. All the associations came in. They had a problem with this, that and the other. What should be in the statutes. They're still fighting over it. Mr. Barua, I got some of the responses to your point that FIFA acted in haste. And two members of our panel today said we should not blame FIFA, we should look inwards of how we have run this sport in India. What would you say to that, sir?
We agree that it was the AIFF didn't conduct the elections in time. But the problem with AIFF was that Praful Patel's tenure was over during the pandemic time. And obviously he was, I don't know whether I should blame the AIFF or blame the state associations who are not, pressurizing the AIFF to hold the elections in time. AIFF went to the court seeking restraint that due to the pandemic, we can't hold an election. So obviously this was the reason the election was delayed. And because of that only, public litigation was filed in the High Court, then it went to the Supreme Court, and the CEO came into the picture. So I don't know whom to blame and whom not to. That's the reason I told that the decision of, because why I said it was in haste, the reason being that the process had already started. From tomorrow, obviously.
Explain to us, Mr. Barua, after May, when this 3-member COA was put in place by the Supreme Court, why is the process still lagging on? What's taking time now?
That was because the AIFF sports code was to be finalized. The AIFF's the regulations were to be finalized, which was not as per the sports code of India. So that's the reason it was delayed.
Ali, when you see all of what is happening today and the fact that AIFF and India has effectively been suspended by FIFA, how do you feel, sir?
We feel bad because obviously Indian national team was to play a three-nation tournament in the coming days in Vietnam. The Gokulam girls team is in Uzbekistan.
Yes.
So they will play the AFC Club Championship within a day. Now they are already in the place. They have qualified from India. They are representing India. And now they have to come back without doing anything.
That is so unfair. Actually, that question is for Shabbir Ali. No, you're right, Mr. Barua, and I understand your emotions. That question was for Shabbir Ali, though. And that's an important point, that our players practice, they want to do their best, and then, frankly, it gets caught up in this very unnecessary red tape. That really is the story today. The rot in Indian sports has been exposed. Mr. Shabbir Ali, would you not agree?
Yeah, of course it is exposed and it's very bad for the players. They are doing hard and once in a lifetime they will get a chance to play in the World Cup. We didn't qualify. Being a host, we are we're getting chance to play. So it's really very bad for the players as well as the full football fraternity. This is really very bad. This I don't know how this is going to solve. If this thing goes on, is really, as I told before also, Gokulam gone, and this coming matches is there, and these girls, really, it is very bad. So hope this will solve.
What is the reason you think, Mr. Shabbir Ali, that all of this has happened? Is it because of the inherent political interference in Indian sports that we see? Every sport is dominated by some form of politics. One's not sure what these politicians are doing running Indian sports. Why aren't the players running Indian sports?
That has to be there, but it's not there. It's become a traditional, you can say. Before this, Priyaranjan Das Munshi was there. Even in other federation or association, most of the politicians are there only. This is going on only. And another thing I want to add here, I think FIFA is against because they don't want the players voting right also. That also they are against it, I think, which CEO suggested. So it's a high time we have to keep in order and we have to do well in future. Not that what happened today. Of course, FIFA has taken action against Nigeria and other thing also because of outside interference. But as we are conducting the tournament, we have to take a government help only. In that way, you can't say the third-party interference or third-party coming into picture. Without the government help,
I don't know if the issue is taking government help. Mr. Barua, you know, your take on the dominance of politicians in Indian sports, and then you have a court-appointed committee now deciding. Are they really the best people to decide how to run Indian football? Shouldn't the players be doing this, Mr. Barua?
I didn't get your question. Can you repeat?
Who should be running Indian football? Should it be politicians or a state-run committee, or should it be the players themselves?
See, like our coach, Mr. Shabbir Ali said, it's unfortunate that obviously, you know, our state association is also being headed by politicians. So, you know, the problem is not about that. The problem is that everywhere political interference is already there since the inception of the associations which have been formed in the state as well as the federations which are running at the center. Now, as far as the intervention of the sports, the third-party interference is concerned, it's not about the state government or the central government stepping in. You know, the central government, obviously we have to go to the central government because we need to get many approvals. Foreign teams coming in, issue of visas, stay. There are many issues which are involved in the conducting of such.
Yeah, but that's standard across countries. That's standard across countries. No, any team from any country needs that help. I don't think that's what the issue is, frankly.
So that's the reason I'm saying it's not about the involvement of a third party. The third party here has been unfortunate because of the Supreme Court's decision. Because the Supreme Court stepped in, they formed a COA to overlook this so that there would be a proper election held in the AIFF and the new body can be set up which can take further the organizing of the World Cup and other things in AIFF.
What is the solution now, Srinivasan? What can be done so that at least before October we have a chance of coming back? You know, our sportsmen on the panel have talked about the teams that have been practicing, they're losing out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Can we claw our way back from here?
No, absolutely. I think the communication that's in the public domain, which has come from the Bureau of the FIFA Council, is fairly clear on what needs to be done for the suspension to be revoked. I think one was that the repeal of the COA is mandated in full, and that the AIFF administration be fully in charge of the AIFF's daily operations. And I think this is what has been asked, and they've also listed a couple of points as to what are the next steps that need to be taken. I think revision of the constitution and conduct of the elections as per what it was before the COA came into being, which is essentially the members of AIFF vote in AIFF's elections and nobody else who is not a member of AIFF gets a voting right. So I think the path or the roadmap, which has been the word that's been spoken about the most, has been laid down pretty clearly by FIFA as to what's expected next for the suspension to be revoked. And with the Solicitor General mentioning the matter in the Supreme Court today and the court looking to take up the matter tomorrow, I think it's...
No, so what will the court do now? What can the court do now? Because why did the government go to the Supreme Court?
So because I think right now the ball's in COA's court itself, because the direction has come from the Supreme Court, where the exco of AIFF, the AIFF administration was asked to move aside and said that the COA will take over things. And now that we have clear direction from FIFA as to this is the only way in which that suspension is going to be lifted, then I think that's a case to be argued out there as to what exactly is required. Because end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, AIFF is a member of FIFA and needs to comply with its obligations as it being a member of FIFA.
Exactly. Gaurav, the big message here, the big takeaway, interference in sporting bodies, whether it's by politicians, bureaucracy, or in this case, even the courts. This is something FIFA frowns upon, isn't it?
It does, and this is something that is quite prevalent in our part of the world, you know. Frankly speaking, even the courts have now developed this liking for appointing these committees who control the sports bodies, who run them for a certain period of time, who have been appointed with a certain mandate to conduct elections and to set the house in order, but they tend to overstay their welcome. They tend to keep on being there in power and enjoying the perks of the power instead of implementing the agenda for which they are there and ensuring that their stay is short, sweet, and productive. This is the problem with these COAs that I have. But having said that, Indian football did need a cleanup. Unfortunately, it has come too late in the day, and at a point when and then you have somebody obviously pulling the strings and telling FIFA to take action against India because
who is doing that, Gaurav? Who is doing that? That's a loaded statement.
Yes, it is, but it seems to be that those who are not in power at present may have tried to influence the FIFA to.
And FIFA will listen to this. Now, I'm trying to understand because these are claims being made. So I'm trying to seriously understand. Can FIFA, who is so dead set against third-party influence, be influenced by someone who used to run the sport? Because that's the claim being made today. It shows FIFA to be very easily wavered, isn't it? Gaurav?
Yes, that's what I feel. I mean, see, the point is, FIFA should have also been understanding of the issue, and they should have, taken a note of the fact that things are changing, and we are implementing a system in which elections will take place soon, and things will improve, and the timelines will be adhered to. But
All
then
right,
at the
let's
same
fix
time,
it now. Let's fix it now. Baichung Bhutia said today that let's use this as an opportunity to fix the system and let those who are qualified run Indian football. Let the others sit it out. We don't need X-politician replaced by Y-politician in the next election. Let's remember that. We don't need X-bureaucrat replaced by Y-bureaucrat. Let those who understand and love the sport actually run it. That's the least we can do with those aspiring to make a mark. Thank you to all of you for joining us on the discussion today. Let me move on to the other